If you wanted to call him the greatest sexual deviant of all time, you could make a pretty good case in those areas.
He was a nice kid, but he was one of those kids that was always just, he's a real smart aleck. Was a bright kid, which didn't help things, right? Made him more dangerous. We were outside one day at youth group, and he was just trying to push my buttons, and he was just, kind of not taking the Lord serious. And I walked over to him, and I went, bam! I punched him in the chest as hard as I crumpled the kid. I just crumpled him. And I leaned over and I said, Ben, when are you going to stop playing games with God? I led that man to the Lord right there. There's times that might be needed.
Many children healed. We've seen midgets grow. We've seen arms and legs that stop growing because the growth cells that stop. Mandada basata. I don't make this stuff up. We've seen midgets grow. We've seen midgets grow. We've seen midgets grow.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Islamic Defense Podcast. So today I'm doing things a little bit differently because I saw Brother Pondering Souls doing a live stream while playing Total War, I believe, and I wanted to do something different. So I'm going to be playing a video game named Dragon Age Inquisition. So I'm going to do some quick rebuttals. By quick, it's probably going to be like 10-20 minutes. But anyway, so David Wood made a video recently. So yeah, let's take a look.
Ibn Ishaq, page 311. Ibn Ishaq recorded that the apostle saw her, al-Fadl, when she was a baby crawling before him, and said, "If she grows up and I am still alive, I will marry her." But he died before she grew up. Lucky girl. Name one way this guy isn't the creepiest person who ever walked the planet. Mohammad saw a baby crawling in front of him, and he said, "If she grows up and I'm still alive, I'll marry her."
This is a lie. First of all, Ibn Ishaq is not reliable. Second of all, this is a fabricated hadith. I mean, Ibn Ishaq was criticized by a number of scholars as unreliable. For example, Sheikh Jalal Abu al-Rub mentioned in his book, The Prophet of Mercy, some of the scholars who considered Ibn Ishaq as unreliable. For example, he said that Ad-Dhawabi also listed some of the major scholars of Islam who refuted Ibn Ishaq's reliability as a hadith narrator. Imam Malik, for instance, called Ibn Ishaq a liar. Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari, as well as Al-Amash, who refuted one of Ibn Ishaq's narrations by saying that he lied. As a general statement, Yahya ibn Sa'id graded Ibn Ishaq as being weak in hadith narration. Imam Mohammad ibn Hanbal discounted the reliability of Ibn Ishaq if he alone narrated a hadith. Also, Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in, in another narration from him, and An-Nasai and Ad-Darakunti stated that Ibn Ishaq was weak in hadith narration. By the way, you can read about this in the Prophet of Mercy, Chapter 2, page number 10. This book is written by Sheikh Jalal Abu al-Rub. Also, Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah also considered Ibn Ishaq's reports to be weak, hadith reports. You can read about this in his book, Mu'jam al-Fatwa, volume number 13, page number 345. Now, these are not modern Muslim scholars. These are some of our classical and oldest scholars who considered Ibn Ishaq as very, very weak. So it's no surprise that David the psychopath chooses to go to the weak source to make his claim. Now, this hadith is also fabricated. On top of this, I mean, it can also be found in Musnad Ahmed, which says that Muhammad saw Habiba, the daughter of Abbas, while she was Fatim, age of nursing, and he said, "If she grows up while I'm still alive, I will marry her." You can read about this in Musnad Ahmed. The hadith number is 25,636. Now, Imam Ahmed gathered this hadith from Ibn Ishaq. This hadith cannot be accepted because it contains a bunch of weak narrators, namely Hussein ibn Abdullah ibn Ubaidah ibn Abbas, Sheikh Suaib al-Aranut graded this hadith as weak because of these two weak narrators, Ibn Ishaq and Hussein. It is also graded as weak by Nur al-Din al-Haytami in his book Mawjam al-Zawad. The hadith number is 7456. So basically here David is committing the heresy fallacy, or the hearsay fallacy, sorry, hearsay fallacy. So basically it's a fallacy when you hear something from a source that you don't know whether it's reliable or not, or it's basically unreliable. He's basically making an argument based on hearsay that has no basis in reality. This is his first lie.
Notice the name in parentheses, al-Fadl. That was added by the translator Alfred Guillaume, and it's apparently a mistake on his part. The baby was later known as Habib bint Abbas. al-Fadl was her mother. We know this because the same story occurs in Musnad Ahmed, and the baby is clearly identified as Habib. In the history of At-Tabari, Habib, the baby, is on the list of people to whom Muhammad proposed marriage but never married. What are our Muslim friends going to say about this?
Now, this is another lie. The reports of most of the supposed proposed marriages are mostly weak, and they also contradict one another in many cases. According to Ibn Abdul al-Bar, who said that as to the women about whom there is difference whether marriage with them were consummated before divorce or their marriages were solemnized, basically it means that the marriage happened but they were solemnized but not consummated. Basically it means that the marriage happened but there was no consummation, or the marriages which were proposed but the marriage never happened, and the causes of separation, and each of them there are too many differences, so much so that it is required to refrain from positively stating anything with regards to any of them. You can read about this in Al-Ishtiyab fi Marifat al-Shahab by Ibn Abdul Bar. So we can clearly see these reports are completely unacceptable because they all contradict one another. There's too many differences. And so all of these reports are baseless. So I'm going to take the psychopath's claim and throw it into the trash can. So the total lie count of David the psychopath is 20. He lied 2 times about Prophet Muhammad, saying he proposed to a baby by quoting a fabricated hadith. Then he lied by quoting weak narration from Tabari. Now, you know what? Let's have some fun with David Wood, the psychopath. Let's say for the sake of argument, I accept his premise and say that yes, you know what? You're right. Prophet Muhammad, he saw this baby and he said that, you know what? When this baby grows up, I'm going to marry her. So what? I don't understand. Why is this a bad thing? Like, how do you know that when he said that, he meant it in a sexual way? I don't understand. Here, they're committing the ambiguity fallacy. So basically, they're taking a statement that he could simply just he could simply have said in a joking tone. I mean, in case you don't know, David, people make jokes. As a matter of fact, Prophet Muhammad was known to make jokes all the time. I mean, he had a great sense of humor. There are many evidences you can see where you see him making jokes and joking with his companions, his family members, and these things. That doesn't mean he meant it in a sexual way. I think one of the main problems is that people especially in the West, are so detached from one another that they don't understand like simple rural jokes, For example, if you go to a village in Bangladesh or if you go to any Arab, anywhere in the Arab countries, people are very close to one another. Especially back in those times, they didn't have any internet or anything else. So they basically socialized with one another. So they are very close to one another. So oftentimes, if you go to villages of Africa or in Bangladesh, you'll notice that people are really friendly with each other. And they oftentimes make jokes that, if you take them out of context, may sound inappropriate. But in reality, they are making jokes. For example, my grandfather, whenever he's in the village, he would oftentimes see a small girl running around, and he would oftentimes jokingly say that, you should get her married. Obviously, he isn't serious. He's joking. So the fact that they take this kind of like cherry picks this type of quotes, and forget the fact this is a weak hadith. Like the fact that they cherry pick this quote and interpreted it purposefully in a sexual way says more about them than it does about the Prophet ﷺ. Like here, let me quote some hadith which shows that Prophet ﷺ had a great sense of humor. Okay, so there's a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, and I'm going to read this. Anas ibn Malik reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, was the best of people in character. I had a brother who was called Abu Umair. When the Prophet would come and see him, he would say, "What has the little sparrow done?" And he would play with him. You could read about this hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, 5778. Now, when an Islamophobe reads this hadith, they're going to say, "Oh my God, look at this," right? The Prophet here, he's saying that, what has the little sparrow done? That means that he thought little children were sparrows. When it's quite obvious that he's joking. He doesn't mean that he's literally a sparrow. He's joking. So I find it quite profound that, these enemies of Islam, they would read this hadith and they'd think that immediately he said something sexual. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And another thing is that, and this is the thing, Islamophobes, they think that Prophet was this creepy guy who was just going around and, seeing children and saying, I'm gonna marry her. He wasn't like that. He was an extremely charismatic person. I mean, seriously, think about it. Do you honestly think that everyone in Arabia just all of a sudden would just start following a guy who sees children and thinks that, you know what, I'm gonna marry her. Ooh. You think they're honestly gonna follow a person like that? Are you that deaf or that stupid? Does it sound like someone who who's a fucking creep? No. The Prophet ﷺ was extremely charismatic. That's one of the things that drew people to him. Like, he wasn't some sexual deviant person going around, bothering children. Like, people are so stupid. You know what I find ironic is that David Wood has the audacity to lie about our prophet, and yet there are direct stories in the Bible that explicitly promotes, and I'm not even joking, there are verses in the Bible and there are stories, not just one, tons of stories of incest. That's right, everybody. You thought that Game of Thrones was bad with its freaking brother and sister relationships? You think that's bad? You have no idea how kinky Bible can get. I'm not even joking. Like, there are so many stories in the Bible that are just straight up porn. Like, it is straight up X-rated pornography. And the thing is that, you guys should let me know. I'm actually thinking of making a series of videos where I basically talk about and laugh about some of these pornographic stories in the Bible. Obviously, I'm going to censor some of it, but there are so many of them. I think it would make a really interesting series. I'm probably going to call it pornography in the Bible, part 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll probably explain some new stories every episode. So let me know if you guys would be interested in that. It would have to be adult, obviously, but there are just so many stories, like pornographic stories in the Bible, that it's mind-boggling. Anyway, so let me just talk about one of these stories, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So there's a story in Genesis 19, and you can find this story in Genesis 90. The verse number is from from 30 to 38. And this is a story about Lot and his daughters. So let me just read the verses. Okay, you'll see what I'm talking about. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old. There is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth." So the 2 daughters were really worried that they didn't have any man around because they couldn't have any children without a man. Then they said, "Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." That's a great idea. Let's just rape our father. That sounds like a great idea. Anyway, so then it reads, that night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger daughter, "Last night I slept with my father." Ooh, it's really not something you should be proud of, but anyway. So let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. So the the older sister had sex with her father, and after that she's literally encouraging the younger sister to do the same. By the way, at this point it's not even sex, it's just rape at this point, because when basically rape basically means is that when you have sex with someone without their consent. And that's basically what's going on here. They didn't take their father's permission. So essentially, Lot got raped by his own daughters. But anyway, let's carry on. So they got their father to drink wine that night also. And the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. Poor Lot. Anyway, so both of Lot's daughter became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ammi. He is the father of Ammonites of today. I don't get it. How horny do you have to be to want to sleep with your freaking father? That makes no sense. And this is supposed to be a word of God, supposedly. So, David, I want to ask you something. Does this sound like something that you would find in a word of God? Do you think God would really reveal this information in his book? Do you think... And the thing is that this is talking about straight up incest. This is one of the most disgusting stories I've ever read. David has no problem with this. David is completely fine with this. But anyway, so yeah, let's take a look at what Islam teaches. We saw what the Bible teaches. Bible is teaching us that, if you get horny and you're with your father, then you can have incest sex. So let's see what Islam teaches in regards to your relationship with your father, and how should daughters behave with, or children should behave with their father. Let's take a look. Because in the Bible, it's teaching you that it's fine if you rape your father. So let's take a look at what Islam teaches. There's a verse in the Quran which says, you can read about this in Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse number 36. It says that worship Allah and associate nothing with him, and be good to your parents. And there's a hadith which Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that, and this hadith can be found in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, Abu Darda reported, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu peace be upon him, said, the father is the middle of the gates of paradise. So keep to this gate or lose it. You can read about this in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, 1900, and this is a Sahih hadith. It is graded as Sahih. So here we see that Islam is teaching us that our fathers are literally the middle of the gates of the paradise, which means they are an important part of you going to the paradise. Without the blessings of your father, chances are you might not get, if your father hates you, you will lose paradise. That's how important father is. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us that we should be good to our parents, both our mother and our father. Now, if you're a Christian, then I want to ask you a question. Which teaching is the best? Christianity, which is teaching you that it's fine to rape your father, or Islam, which is teaching you that you should be good to your father. Without your father, you cannot go to paradise. You decide for yourself. But anyway, I'm done with that. With that, I'll be ending the video. Thank you for watching. Jazakallah khairan. Inshallah, my next video will come soon. So yeah, Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.